Welcome everyone to today's seminar hosted by Berkeley Pharma Foundation. My name is Wen Luan Nguyen and I'm the president of the foundation. Our mission is to increase access for scientists and entrepreneurs in the biotech industry through education, mentorship, and professional opportunities. To drive meaningful impact, we have set clear goals. Within the next 3 months, we aim to organize an in-person conference to gain visibility and generate traction for funding. Within 2 years, we plan to launch and fund a research program for scientists and entrepreneurs. And within 5 years, we aspire to establish a cutting-edge scientific laboratory in Berkeley, California. Berkeley Pharma Foundation is dedicated to educating and empowering scientists and entrepreneurs through our speaker series, where industry leaders share insights on cutting-edge biotech innovations, career development, and entrepreneurship. Our goal is to bridge the gap between scientific discovery and real-world impact. To get involved, follow us on LinkedIn for updates, stay tuned for our upcoming seminars and conferences, and feel free to reach out to me to explore more ways to engage with our mission. Today, we're thrilled to welcome our speaker, Elyse Heob, MPH, MBA, an inspiring entrepreneur who successfully scaled her company, Clear Mask, during the pandemic. She will share her journey, the challenges she overcame, and key lessons from her experience in biotech entrepreneurship. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to an engaging and insightful discussion. And with that, Elyse, I will pass the mic on to you.
Great, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Elyse Heob, and I'm going to talk to you today about my experience with Clear Mask. So let's get started. All right. So my name is Elyse Heob. I was a co-founder and the chief operating officer of the company Clear Mask. We produce transparent surgical masks, started in 2017 and scaled extremely rapidly during the pandemic. So today I will give you a behind the scenes look of what it was like to run the company from start all the way through our scale. And I'm happy to share behind the scenes look of what it was like during the pandemic and give you the tea, what it was like to run this type of company. So I usually get tons of questions throughout these types of seminars. And if you have any specifics that you want to know what it was really like, please throw your questions in the chat and we will leave lots of time at the end and I'm happy to answer anything. All right, sound good? Let's dive in. So overview of Clear Mask. We were transparent surgical masks. You can see a picture of what the box looked like on the right-hand side. And yes, that's me on the box. Our whole goal was to have transparent masks to improve communication, restore humanity in healthcare, and also solve an issue that had been a big problem for the deaf and hard of hearing community for decades. So we were able to produce the first fully transparent, full-face mask that was FDA cleared and CE marked. And we scaled 0 to 45 million with no outside investment and got 19 million masks out there globally. This issue of communication in healthcare was nothing new. This has been an issue that's been raised by the deaf and hard of hearing community for decades. But our team was one of the first to commercialize it and take it to large scale viability. So how did we get started? It started off with the 4 people that you see on the screen. Those were our original 4 co-founders and the 4 people that took this idea all the way through. I joined the team through Johns Hopkins. We were all Johns Hopkins graduate students, and a couple of us met in a class for medical device commercialization. It was all about how to get medical products to market, whether it be a drug, whether it be a device, or any other type of healthcare product. So I saw the Clear Mask pitched as a semester-long project, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is going to work. When I put down on my different priorities of which team I wanted to join, I listed number 1 choice, Clear Mask. Number 2 choice, Clear Mask. Number 3 choice, Clear Mask. And luckily I got assigned to the Clear Mask team. So I was thrilled. I thought, great, I can write the business plan for this business for my capstone project for my master's degree. And that's kind of where I thought about it. As we got started, I really saw the potential in the market size. And I thought this could be a real company. I had always had the dream of running my own business. And I thought, this is my chance. This is my chance to help so many people worldwide and fulfill my dreams. So the four of us would meet usually on Friday nights from around 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We would meet at the Fast Forward U at Johns Hopkins, which was basically like the Student Entrepreneurship Center. And we would do our meetings there. And it was one of my favorite things I did during grad school. If we got lucky, one of the CEO would get catering that was left over from the medical school, and we get sandwiches or something like that. But usually it was just the four of us moving things forward week by week, slowly towards commercialization. So how did we do our fundraising? We participated in 7 different accelerator programs throughout the Baltimore area and nationally. So we started off by smaller ones, and we grew larger and larger. We did a variety of pitch competitions, accelerators where we would usually win the grand prize, and lots of different participation to earn that money. It was great. We would get little pieces of money here and there and saved up over time to fund our initial work towards commercializing Clear Mask. It was great because we did the work ourselves. And so this was able to cover all of our product R&D. We were able to cover all of the FDA clearance. We were able to cover our commercialization efforts, IP coverage, and then everything we needed. None of us took a salary. We all had day jobs, and we did Clear Mask at night. So some fundraising tips for you all to go through our doors. Number one, you never know who can connect you to an accelerator, who can connect you to money, who can connect you to an angel investor. Always be networking, always keep your ears open and make friends with as many people as possible. You don't know who can help you in the industry. And in health tech, biotech, med tech, it's all pretty small. People know each other, and you want to leave a positive impression on your company with every single person you talk to. So we had hundreds of conversations. When we would participate in these accelerators, we would meet with every single mentor, and we would meet with every person that could potentially help us. We were able to get a lot of the work done by different law firms, tax firms, where we would come into their office hours. They would help us. They would offer to do some work for free. We would build a relationship, and it really moved us forward. The second piece of advice is you're going to be pitching all the time. Sometimes you get to events and you don't even know that you're going to be pitching, and you have to be ready to go. So we designated 1 to 2 people to be ready to pitch all the time. It was me, and it was our CEO. We used us at different times for different purposes, depending. Basically, we had a lot of diversity on our team, and we wanted to see, okay, who do you want there on the stage sharing the message? Who do we think is going to resonate? And we would pick between us on who was going to do that pitch. And every time we did pitch, we would make little tweaks. Every time, not only a formal pitch, but even networking and doing introductions with people. We were always looking forward to, okay, what makes their eyes widen about the product? What makes them lean in? What makes them excited about us? And that's what those little key pieces that we would remember and throw into our pitch. I would even try different like hand gestures at different pitches, like saying idea number 1, idea number 2, idea number 3. I learned that you say transparent mask and you do this image on your face, and little things that got people to understand. So each type of persona would understand what the product is and how it could benefit them and maybe people that they know. And then finally, there's different ways to do the work. In the beginning, you can do the work yourself. You can contract it out. Both are good options. For us, it was good news. We didn't take any outside capital, so we get to make all the decisions. Bad news, we didn't take any outside capital, so we get to make all the decisions. And so there's pros and cons to both. Especially with biotech products that need a longer R&D cycle, or medical devices that need a longer R&D timeline, you do need to fundraise or get some sort of government grant funding, if that will still be there, to fund that type of work moving forward. With us, we were a relatively straightforward medical device, and so we could do a lot of the R&D ourselves, but a lot of times it does need to be done by an outside group. And so traditional fundraising is not a bad way to go. We were just able to do it a different way. So Once it got to February 2020, we had a product, we were in design freeze. We had our FDA application submitted. We had everything ready to go. And then things were about to change. We had a phone number for Clear Mask, and I was the person who answered all the phone calls. We had a standard Google Voice. And sometimes you get weird calls when you have just a number out there, but you need to answer all of them to make sure maybe it's somebody who can help you, or maybe it's a customer. So in February 2020, I got a call from somebody from Wuhan, China, and it's a call that I will never forget. In the beginning, I just thought, okay, there's this weirdo guy. He's from Wuhan, China, but the desperation in his voice is what got to me. He wanted any mask he could get. He said he was in the US for a couple of days and he wanted to buy as many masks as he could because they needed them in Wuhan. And I had to tell him, well, we haven't received our FDA clearance yet. Legally, I cannot sell any masks to you. And I remember he said, we don't care. We want whatever mask you can get. I don't care if they're FDA cleared. I don't care if they're legal. I just need masks. I need to take them back to Wuhan. And at that time, I dismissed it as, you get weird calls all the time as a business. But looking back, this was a huge indicator of what was to come. So things really began in March 2020. We got our FDA clearance. It looks like that letter on the screen. And fun fact, our FDA clearance actually went to spam the first time. So it was 2 to 3 days. We didn't know we could get started because it was stuck in spam. Aaron found it in the spam and we were like, oh, okay, we got our FDA clearance. Now we have a huge decision ahead of us. So are we going to go for it? We're able to sell legally in the United States. We have been working on this for years. We have poured our hearts, our minds, and our souls into this company. We've given it everything. And now's our chance. And I remember distinctly thinking at the time, I'm going to sacrifice everything for this company. If this is going to be a success, I'm going to have to give up everything. But this is our chance. This is our time to make an impact. This is everything we've been working for. And so we decided to move forward. Basically, from that moment on, for the next couple of years, this is what our life felt like all the time. It was drinking out of a fire hose. It was insane constantly. The amount of demand that was coming at us was something that is difficult to describe. It was just constant things happening all the time. We did our best to keep it as organized as possible. And I am so proud of everything we were able to do. But wow, it was a wild journey. So I will tell you more about it. So when sales exploded, then what do? We were just trying to keep up with the constant demand. Our mask became the #1 transparent mask in the world. And so it was used by most hospitals, state governments, international governments, schools, corporations, and millions of individuals. It would have been a lot easier for us to only sell in bulk to different governments and hospitals, but we felt like we can't do that. We can't let the people that we built this product for not be able to access it. So I designed the system to be able to sell to everybody all at once. So through the ClearMask website, we were able to process both huge orders and individual boxes. So when the National Health Service of the UK wants to buy 250,000, it goes through the ClearMask website. When, my mom bought 1 box of 24, it went through the ClearMask website. We were all over the world. We got our CE mark for Europe. We got our Health Canada clearance for Canada. We were in Latin America, Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. So we both processed orders directly through the clearmask.com, and then we worked with distributors as well. Sometimes when we would work with governments or we would work with hospitals, it would go through us directly. Sometimes it would be with distributors. All of it was great. In the beginning, right when the pandemic happened, we got all these crazy calls of different random distributors that would come up and be like, hey, I need 15 million masks. Hey, I need 5 million masks. I need 20 million masks. And it was absolute chaos. But we were able to get everything organized and push everything through very quickly through this type of system. The thing that I'm probably most proud of was the amount of donations we were able to make. So we donated almost 75,000 masks out to different organizations that served populations that probably couldn't afford masks or who struggled with that. It was a lot of folks that served deaf and hard of hearing community, folks with different types of abilities, folks that served the elderly, and many more. And this was something that I was so happy that we could do. It didn't necessarily further our business financially, but this served what we were trying to do was get as many transparent masks out to as many people who needed them as quickly as possible. And this was an effort that we were able to do that through. So a year in, we have pretty much any accolade you could get. We got Forbes 30 under 30. My face was in the Wall Street Journal. One day we woke up and there was an article from JAMA about our mask, validating our mask and the science behind it. Aaron had done an interview on NPR. We had been on the Today Show. We had been in Bloomberg. Apple purchased us. Boeing purchased us. Everybody was using us. Over time, one thing that I thought we did really well was we listened carefully to the customer inquiries and different things coming in about our masks, especially the complaints, because the complaints were our best form of customer discovery. Our first product was the first one that you see at the top on the left. That was our original FDA cleared CE marked product. And then people had different things that they wanted changed about it. And so that led to the child size mask that you'll see at the bottom. And then the Clear Mask Plus, our other product, which was like an N95 equivalent. What we did was we listened to when people had a complaint, we thought, okay, is that a new product? And ultimately we compiled the different complaints that we would get or the different feedback we would get and introduced multiple product lines. So we were everywhere. We were global. We had 3 product lines. This was our dream. This was everything I could possibly have dreamed of. And I felt like I was truly living my dream life. So a big piece of what made us successful was getting credibility immediately. And so I'll give a couple tips on what we were able to do that, because we started with nothing, no money, just the 4 of us, and how we're able to build a global brand. The first thing that I'll say is anytime you can get PR from any type of outside organization, go for it. We started with local PR from Baltimore because that's where Johns Hopkins is located. We were one of the top startups listed in Baltimore. We had different features in the Johns Hopkins Alumni Magazine. Those might seem small, but that outside validation is what has people look at your product and think, okay, that's not something somebody made up. That's something that is third-party validated. Another way you can establish credibility is building your website early. So we designed our logo that you see on that piece on the right, and we had our website up there with professional looking photos early on. That also establishes in terms of IP that gets you ready to go with trademark and copyright out there. So it's important that your website has been out there for a while. So even if you have a new product, go ahead, get your website out, have just one page, but make sure you have an online presence and third-party credibility as early as possible. There's nothing too small that can't help you. I think the other thing was we looked at industry norms for marketing material. For us, it was medical devices and PPE, and we followed that. So you can take a look. That's an example of what our one-pager looked like, and it matches what people expect to see. You add little things like, make sure that you have an email address, you have confidential written at the bottom, you have a logo that looks professional. Everything are little pieces that people look for credibility. And when you're a new startup in your beginning, you have no credibility. So you really have to fight for every piece of credibility you get. And then finally, one of the reasons we were able to be so successful with national press is we had a press kit ready to go, photos, materials, language. We actually wrote a lot of the articles that were written about us. We would basically write the article, we would give it to the reporter, and then they would tweak it and send it in. We also had the interviews basically ready to go. So you want to make it as easy as possible. We learned the hard way a couple times. If you don't fill in the information, they're going to make their best guess, and their best guess is usually wrong. And so you want to give them exactly what you want to be putting out there. The media doesn't just happen. You create the media, you build relationships with the reporters, and you feed them the story and the information that you want out there. Think about it like another form of marketing. So if you don't establish credibility, things like this can happen. So this is an example of one of the many counterfeits that came out of our product. Since we were the #1 transparent mask out there, we were the only one that was credible and FDA cleared. We had tons of copycats. This is an Amazon listing from one of the many copycats out there. You can see they put a wig on me and they changed my eyes to look, it looks a little weird. But actually a school district bought 10,000 of these because technically they were cheaper because they weren't the real product. About a third of my job for the first year was going out and reporting the different counterfeits without using a lot of legal money. So Amazon, for example, had tons of counterfeits. They had all sorts of listings that may have been masks, may have been nothing. A lot of people were paying for items that didn't exist, and we got the backlash of that. If one of our boxes got delayed, people thought we were a fake company, would write all sorts of reviews about us. Or if there was any sort of issue, they lumped us into the counterfeit category. And so we had to actively fight against that. That's why another reason it was so important that we established our credibility early, and we established our product as the dominant product out there in the new transparent mask category. And so even with that, these types of products existed. I can't tell you that I didn't leave a 1-star review for them. And if you see this brand, please feel free to leave a 1-star review for them as well on their Amazon listing. So what was it like behind the scenes? What was it like for me and my personal experience? This is what it looked like on the outside most of the time. It was a slow and steady progress for the first 3 years, and then we took off, and it was absolutely wild. And this is what my mental health was like over time. So I was 100% living my dream. I was doing exactly what I had worked so hard for my entire life. And also, it was so overwhelming all the time. Anybody who's a startup founder in the audience knows you're constantly making decisions that you don't have enough information to fully make and to fully move forward with. And you just have to give your best guess. I remember reflecting at one point that we had a fabulous staff. And I felt like many of our staff members could have been one of the founders. And really what differentiated between being the leader of the company and working for the company is being willing to put yourself out there and being willing to put your name behind a decision that had cascading and large consequences behind it. I felt like we were constantly making decisions and we were like, this is the best based on the information we know at the time, and you can't look back. There's no time for that. So this is what it looks like most of the time when you run a startup. It's nighttime, you're tired, you're in your glasses, I am in my comfy shirt, and I'm in front of the computer. With all the glamour and everything from the outside, that's one side of things, but this is what it's usually really like. You're working really hard, you're not getting paid for a long time of it, you're hustling, you're doing your best, and sometimes your health takes a toll. So overall advice on running a company and making sure you're successful. A big thing is if you have co-founders, it has to be the #1 priority for all of the co-founders. For us, we were all pretty new in our career. And for us to be successful in ClearMask would have been the most successful thing that we had ever done in our entire lives. And it really was everything we had worked for. Even when things started to change and shift, like for example, one of the co-founders, their mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which was tragic. And it did take some of their attention away from the company. And we really felt it and things started to shift. So if you want to run a company like this, it is an uphill battle all the time. You have to make sure your mental health is top notch. You're taking good care of yourself. Your health is top notch. You have good social connections. And you need to be in really good shape because you're going to be pushed to your limits. The second thing is we constantly adjusted to meet market demand. I talked about the different products that we were able to make based on the feedback we got. Same with our materials. Every time something was unclear, we would do a new version. We would do a new iteration. Once we received sufficient feedback, we redesigned our box to make the instructions more clear. We put inserts to show how it was made. We did a demo video on how to wear the masks. Different things. When we would get questions, we needed to provide it. provide answers to those questions. And so really listening to not what you think your product is, but how your product is perceived is critical. I'll emphasize again, you need to match your marketing material to industry norms. And this starts with the pitch decks. Anytime you have a pitch deck, it does need to look very clean, very polished, very professional. And I know that feels surface level, but it's important. Everything needs to look more polished and like you have it more together than maybe you even feel on the inside. But it's a lot of showing that you are the company that you're evolving into, not even the company that you are at that moment. And then finally, we got lots of feedback that you are just a standard mask. You need to fit the margins and the mold of a standard mask. And we said no to that. A lot of advisors told us, you know, your margins need to be about 10%, 10 cents per mask. You need to compete against standard masks. And we said, no, we are a new product category and we're going to be the leader in this new product category. And that's what we became. So I would argue, if you do have a product that isn't just a small improvement on an existing product, carve a niche, be bold, get out there and educate everybody on what your product is, why it's needed, and then why you're the best to solve it. So I would love to help you all. I know we have tons of entrepreneurs in the audience. I absolutely love working with new biotech, health tech, and med tech startups. And I would love to work with any of you on any projects that you have. I offer lots of different services. I do advising. I can help with operations, unlocking. Since I was chief operating officer, I'm an expert project manager. And with some companies, I come on as either invisible or visible co-founder, usually in the COO role. So please feel free to ask me about any of that. I would love to learn about the new technology, new innovation you're working on, and help you have the same success that we had with ClearMask. So with that, please feel free to check out my website, ElyseHeob.com, for my consulting. And I'd love to open it up to any questions that you all have.
Hi, everyone. If you have questions, please feel free to put that in the chat, and I will read the questions one by one to Elyse. Thank you so much. So, Elyse, as we're waiting for more questions to come in, I was just wondering, so you had three other co-founders at your company, ClearMask, and what was the team dynamics like? I know you mentioned that you were working late hours, each of you had full-time jobs, and so on and so forth. But what was it like in the beginning working with these three co-founders, and did things go smoothly for you?
Yeah, I feel like one thing that we got, we didn't do it on purpose, but happened to us, and I was thrilled that it happened, is each four of us had different personality types and different types of skill sets. And so that worked out really well, where one person was really interested in the external image of the company and she led marketing and PR. I just happened to love running businesses and doing things behind the scenes. No one was fighting with me to do the accounting in the beginning. And so I did things like that. I was more experienced on the team, so I did a lot of the managing. We had somebody who was our engineer. And so she was able to do all the product R&D and do like the compliance, do our quality management system, everything like that. And I think that what's really big is that we all had different interests and different like demeanors on like what we wanted to do. And I think that really like pushed us. It allowed us to have things be running really harmoniously because we all had our different lanes, and that we didn't really have any fights or anything. It ran incredibly smoothly. I remember in the accelerators, some of the folks were saying like, "Oh my gosh, like, you know, what are the co-founder dynamics do you have, and how can we help you with that?" And we were like, we don't really have any co-founder dynamics because we all really excelled in our own lanes. And I see some of you, it looks like you might be direct messaging me. If you want to put it in the chat for everybody, then it can be seen and we can address all the questions.
Yes, thank you, Elise, for that. I do have one question coming from CEO Mike McCormick. So he's asking, Elise, what is your company doing now?
We decided to retain the IP. So we all moved on to different things. I'm running my consulting business, Elyse Consulting. And so I help collections of different health tech, med tech, and biotech companies get their products to market and achieve as much scaling as possible. So I assist with like operations and go to market. We have one person went into VC, one person is working in biopharma, and we all just went our different paths. I'll let you know if there's another pandemic and we want to like scale things back again.
Thank you for that, Elise. So the next question is from CEO Zoe Watson. She's asking, what are some of the tactics you use to manage your mental health during the founding of your company, ClearMask?
I worked out all the time. So during the pandemic, I went to the YMCA and I swam because it was a really good way to completely detach. I found for me, it was really hard to not think about work unless I physically removed myself. And so usually that was like moving my body and working out. I don't know if it's possible to fully like manage your mental health when you're in such a scaling mode. But I did everything that I could. I also tried to really do a good job of taking care of my body and eating healthy.
Great, thank you. So next question from Relitsa Petrova. She's asking, what are the critical elements in forming a successful team of founders?
I think it's looking for those balance of personalities. So one person needs to be really good at fundraising. So you need to have an expert networker, someone who's great at sales. I feel like most advisors will say, and I agree with, you want to have your founding team doing the initial sales. And so you need somebody who's good at that. I think it's important to have somebody run things behind the scenes. That's usually somebody like me, who's like a chief operating officer, somebody who like keeps the company going and moves things forward, make sure everything is like hitting milestones. And then it's important to have somebody who wants to be the image of the company and the face of the company as well. So we had a split there. We used my face for the mask because we had other people typically doing the media interviews and we wanted them to be separate. So essentially I was a stock photo and I was fine with that. And then we had other people doing the actual media interviews, and you want the same person usually doing the media interviews so that they're ready to go. At least for us, we would get inquiries and we would need to respond within about 2 hours and be ready to interview within 2 hours. And so you want to have somebody who's like always talking about it and always ready to go.
That's very good advice. Thank you so much, Elise. A question from Bobby Kwan. What is your approach to soliciting and implementing feedback? You mentioned at the end that not all advice is useful. So what do you do to filter through the noise or the detractors?
Yeah. So we have the 5 rule. If we hear the same advice 5 different times, then we need to implement it. Because you'll hear all sorts of things about your company, and usually you get the same ideas over and over again. I can't tell you how many people came up to me and were like, "I have a great idea for you. You should look into the Asian market." It's like, okay, great, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I never knew people in Asia wore masks, and so you'll get the same things over and over again. And yeah, we had the rule of 5. Once we heard it 5 times, then we were like, okay, we should probably take this seriously.
The next question is from Justin Dang. How do you think the company would have progressed if the pandemic did not happen in 2020? How did the mindset of your team change once you had immense demand during that time?
Yeah, so the demand was, it was much bigger and new markets happened. So basically, we were interested in doing healthcare, and our target was healthcare. Folks wear masks in healthcare regularly, and that's what we were going to enter. And during the pandemic, it opened up to other types of markets. So governments bought masks more than they would have normally. We had schools buy masks that normally wouldn't buy. And we had like communities that would buy masks for individuals more so than they would in the healthcare sector. So I think if it hadn't happened, we would have been successful in the healthcare sector, and it probably would have just stayed in that market.
So next question from CEO Wesley Fogel. What did you get from joining each consecutive accelerator?
Yeah.
Well, he has more questions, so I'm gonna I'm gonna leave it at this.
All right, Wesley wants to know a lot. Let's answer Wesley's question, and then if we have time, we can come back and finish the rest of them. So the first one of like, what did we gain from each accelerator? A big thing is honestly money. So if you win the grand prize at the end, sometimes it was 25K, sometimes it was 15K. We didn't have personal funds to put into it, so every bit did make a difference. Through the accelerators too, we got access to those mentors. That was helpful. The other piece is a lot of times they had free legal services and tax services, like I mentioned. And so I would say we saved probably like $25,000 in tax and legal just by going to the office hours and then being able to do things ourselves. What I tell everybody when you do those mentoring sessions, you talk to the mentor. Usually they offer things that they're willing to do for you in the session. You write them an email immediately afterwards. You say, thank you so much for your offer to do insert the blank. Usually they forget. 2 weeks later, you send a response to the same email. You say, thank you so much for your offer to do blank. I just wanted to check in on that. They feel bad and they do it immediately. And that would happen over and over again for us.
That's great. Thank you. So the next question is, how did you make it work with such a small headcount versus such high revenue generation?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm really proud of. At our most, we only had 15 people who worked on the ClearMass team, even while we were generating like tens of millions of dollars. And I think it's the same attitude of like doing things ourselves. We set up all of our systems and taught ourselves how to do everything. And then we ran it, and we had very high expectations for everybody on our team. And I have to say that they did, meet those expectations. And that's something that I'm really happy about. That's something that I just assumed everybody ran a business with that type of revenue and that type of headcount. And honestly, I didn't realize it was something that was rare until after ClearMask, and I talked to different people. And so that's one thing I do with my consulting is I help people maximize what they can do with their headcount. And get a lot done on very small resources. It's something I think I didn't realize that we were so powerful in that way, but we just needed to get things done and make it happen. And so it was less about design and more about necessity.
Thank you so much. So the next question is, did the pandemic change the motivation behind starting the company?
We started the company in 2017, so that was way ahead of the pandemic. So it created opportunities, but I don't really think it impacted how we felt about it. All along, our goal was to get mass out there to serve the deaf and hard of hearing community, and we absolutely did that. And it was such a joy to go beyond that and to be able to serve so many more people. I do feel like because of the pandemic, people understood the need for a transparent mask in a way that maybe was harder to explain ahead of the pandemic. But we absolutely wanted to center things on the deaf and hard of hearing community. And that's a big reason why we didn't want to take outside capital, because we didn't want to be moved to the side or, be encouraged to focus on different types of communities when that was really like where we came from. One of our founders was deaf, and she helped guide us in that way. And I, felt really honored to learn more about that community, learn, some sign language, and learn like what the priorities were and what the deaf experience is in healthcare. And it's not great. There's a lot of disparities and a lot of like not being treated well, violating the ADA, all sorts of things. And learning about those would always inspire me and communicate, get me to, push things forward and keep me inspired.
Thank you for that. So the next question is, are you still looking to exit the business?
We're done with the business, and we did an analysis, and we decided to retain our IP because it was more valuable than what we could sell it for. And I'm happy with that decision. So the four of us still own the IP. The business was revenue positive the entire time. And so I'm really happy with how things went and what we were able to do. I think the biggest thing that I was happy about was the impact. So no, we're not looking to do that. And I feel good about our decisions.
That's great, Elyse. A question from CEO Sybil Baladi. What would you have done differently if the COVID pandemic had not happened?
So I feel like that's the same question as before. We would have really focused on the healthcare market and we would have grown in that space. I do think we would have had lots of success, but it would have been focused on the healthcare sector.
A question from Itzel. Did you have any personal experiences that made you want to make a clear mask during the pandemic? Was there a specific incident or person that inspired you to come up with this idea?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, this is not my idea and I can't take credit for it. It's been a big need in the deaf and hard of hearing community for decades. So I did meet our co-founder, Elyse Dittmar. She's deaf, and I feel like she helped me understand what the deaf experience is like and how critical this type of transparent mask is needed and is still needed within the healthcare system. It's talking to somebody like this versus talking to somebody like this. It's something we all need, but it's an extra critical thing within the deaf and hard of hearing community. So it was less of coming up with the idea and more of like seeing the opportunity that had been ignored for decades and being the one to commercialize it.
Another question from CEO Sibyl Baladi. Why did you develop a mask requiring FDA approval?
We wanted a very high quality mask and we wanted a medical device at the highest level. There were a lot of other masks out there that were not FDA cleared and did not provide the same level of quality and the same level of protection. We felt like this type of mask at this quality level is needed out there in the market. And that's why we wanted FDA clearance. We also got CE mark for the same level. I feel like this type of mask needs the same types of regulatory standards of all other types of masks. And so we wanted to match that and get the same type of product out there that has existed in other forms in the transparent form. And so that's why we went for regulatory clearance.
Thank you so much. Another question from CEO Wesley Fogel. How has this experience changed how you think about startup culture, growth expectations, fundraising, team building, etc.?
I don't think it's really changed anything about those topics, but what I will say is I think I was more naive about a couple things. I was naive in thinking that different businesses would act ethically. And I learned that it's not the standard that different businesses will act ethically and that you need to just be constantly protecting yourself against that. I think I was naive in thinking people would do the right thing. And I've learned that that's not always the case. Not with our team. We never had issues like that, but with some of our vendors and different people that we partnered with, I learned that the hard way. And that was difficult. I got a treasure trove of stories there. I think that the other thing that I learned was basically just because something is the right thing to do or because it improves things with healthcare. For example, we significantly improved communication and prevented things like an ADA violation, Americans with Disabilities Act. It was really sad to realize over and over again that hospitals don't care about violating the ADA. Lots of different groups don't care about violating the ADA. They don't really care about patient experience. They don't care about providing high quality patient care. And yeah, that broke my heart over and over again.
I'm sorry to hear about that. Question from Itzel. Here's another business campaign that your talk reminded me of and wanted to share with others. And there's a link hitting a targeted audience that hit a global spectrum. A question from CEO Mike McCormick. Your timing was perfect. You caught lightning in a bottle with the pandemic, who managed supply chain, raw material issues, your manufacturer's constraints, and customer back orders.
Yeah, so we were able to fill in a gap where most of the major masks, they had supply chain issues, all sorts of like back orders, things because their design required the same materials. Ours had very different materials. So we had foam, we had plastic, even the straps were very different. And so while other companies were backed up, we filled in the gap. And so we were able to mass produce lots of masks really quickly. We did use a third-party connector with our manufacturers to connect us to the to the individual factories. I think if it was a different time, we would have done that and built the individual manufacturer relationships one-on-one. But we did use that third party to get us up going faster. But yeah, in the beginning, basically, we didn't have the supply chain issues that other people had because our mask was so different in terms of materials and design.
That's a good answer. Thank you so much. From Isabel Pappas, um, oh, she just said thank you for the talk. And I'm not sure if it's a comment or a question, it's quite long, from Divyaraj Nirwan. Hello, Elyse. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. My future co-founders and I are in the ideation and experimental period of our product and are having some trouble in finding resource or materials as the product is quite niche and would require a lot of research and approvals before it can hopefully hit the market. It is a biologic-based drug delivery system, and I could not really find any available guidelines, laws, or any readily available materials. What advice would you provide us on how to go about this? For your reference, there's three of us involved in the company, and we're graduate students in our final semester of college, and two of us are international students. Thank you so much for the webinar and your response.
Sure. Since that's so specific, I'm going to put my website in there. Please feel free to get in touch with me and send me a note, and I'd be happy to schedule some time to talk to you. For anybody, if you want to get in touch, please, that's my website. There's a form to get in touch. I'd be happy to have a call with you and see, how I can support you in your ventures.
Thank you. Another question from CEO Wesley Fogel. Which markets were the easiest and hardest to sell into? Do you see similar opportunities or challenges with other startups you advise?
Yeah, so what I tell all sorts of startups that I advise is I work with a lot of companies that have similar structures to ClearMask and different structures to ClearMask. And something that is often similar is they have one target market, but they have lots of different markets they can sell to in lots of different channels. And so what I usually tell them is let's find out who is your first customer that has the willingness to pay, because interest and willingness to pay are very different. And understanding what the purchasing pathways look like in healthcare is also really important because it is way more complicated than most other industries. You have your user, you have your provider or clinician, you have your payer, and then sometimes you have an administrator who's like approving or not approving the type of purchase. You need to have different value propositions for all of those. And if you do have a product that meets all of those, then you have a chance at moving things forward. And so I look at, which hits the value propositions for all of those, but also like who has the initial need that has a willingness to pay right now and also has the budget to pay right now. So get that first market going, generate some revenue, and then you can expand into other markets and show your different use cases. But look into that first market and find out like who is that and who's going to open the doors for you so you can start generating revenue and that can fund other types of markets that you're looking into. For us, it was the deaf and hard of hearing community. So that was like an immediate yes. But really most of the markets that we served were a fast yes. I'm trying to think, some that surprised me were the judicial market. Because they needed to be able to see people's faces. If you're evaluating somebody up on the stand and you're a jury and you can't see their face, how can you possibly make some sort of judgment? And then another one that surprised me was the arts. And so people doing dance performances, theater, they need to be able to see the face in order to do a performance. And so those were two of the markets that surprised me. But yeah, find your first market with a willingness to pay and then move forward from there.
So to follow up on that, what split of your sales were domestic versus international?
I would say it was about like 2/3 domestic and 1/3 international. Yeah.
A question from CEO Zoe Watson. How did you manage willingness to pay, regulatory strategy, and growth aligned with mission, and ultimately where you spent time, money, or focus? What are some of the ways you did your research and got in touch with customers?
So I advise the ICOR, the National the National Science Foundation I-Corps program is a great way to teach your team and yourself on how to do customer discovery interviews. Essentially what they teach is the methodology. You go into an interaction, ask for only 10 to 15 minutes, and then just listen to their major pain points and see what comes up. Because what their major pain points that they're talking about is their willingness to pay. That's something that they want solved immediately. If you don't hear a connection between you and your type of product, or what you think, what you are hypothesizing is their major pain points that you're going to solve through your product, that's something that you need to consider. And you can try different markets, all sorts of different people. The I-Corps methodology works really well too with healthcare, medtech, biotech products too, because of the complex nature of the US healthcare system and the different types of players. You need to understand like everybody within the system and what their motivations are back and forth. What's going to be, your advocate, who's going to be somebody who might sabotage your efforts, who's somebody who's going to enable the connections that you need to get a purchase through. It's a lot easier when it's like a direct to consumer product, or if you have like a SaaS company, those types of things, those don't apply to healthcare as much. And so it's really important to do that market research. And that's where we got a lot of our insights, and we're able to understand exactly how to approach the markets. When you hit the market, you don't want to be guessing on what the sales cycle is and how it works to get a purchase done. You want to know that ahead of time through your customer discovery. So I always encourage people, the I-Corps program is fabulous. And if you can also do it on your own. You can participate in it. A lot of times you get funding for participating. But you can do those types of customer discovery interviews on your own, and I highly encourage it at any stage.
Great, thank you so much. A question from CEO Sybil Baladi. What was the company's biggest success in addition to sales during COVID, and biggest failure?
I would say being able to get the product out there and to get a high quality product out there for a population that's usually ignored. That was something I was really proud of. And I was really proud of our donation program. Our whole goal was to get masks out there to everybody who needed it. And we were able to do that with the donation program, regardless of ability to pay. And so I think I was most proud of our donation program and our wide reach. In terms of a failure, that's a really good question. I think I could have taken better care of myself and done a better job to just sustain my mental health and physical health while I was running the company. And I think I'll definitely do that like in the future. So I had no life, and I had no work-life balance during the company, which, it was what it was. I don't regret it, but I promised myself I wouldn't do it again. And so I'm going to honor that promise.
All right, Elyse, one last question from me. So where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I would love to continue helping the different and supporting the different companies that I'm working with. I absolutely love the commercialization process. It inspires me and gets me so excited to get new health innovation out there to patients who need it most. It's hard to think of something that's more exciting than that. And working with different entrepreneurs on their ventures to help them get that innovation to as many patients as possible is something that just inspires me and fills me with so much joy. I work with a portfolio of companies now, and I hope that only grows.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Elyse.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I'll throw my website in there again. If you want to get in touch, please do. I'd be happy to chat more with any of you. And I wish you all the best of luck with your ventures. The world needs more medical devices, more health innovation out there. And whatever you're working on is needed in the world. And it's so important. So wishing you all the best and all the success in the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.